Thank you for joining us for episode 4 of Neuro Women Natter with me, Charlie Hart, also known as Awesome Charlie with an AU for autistic, and Tony Horn. So,
Hi.
hi. Um, I'll give you a quick audio description in case you're listening on the audio. So, I am a 40-something woman with straight blonde shoulder-length hair, and I have a countryside mural with a rainbow behind me. Tony, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm also a 40 something white woman with short bobbed hair with highlights. And I'm currently sitting in my office with a white background and my Think Differently logo. I've always been such a people pleaser. If someone said to me, "Oh, we're going to go on holiday. Do you want to come?" Yeah, yeah, no worries. Not even thinking about the
Mm.
consequences of where we're going to find this money. And I worked for a bank and I knew about debt and I got myself in such bad debt, but then I also knew how to manage out of it as well, because I had that experience and that knowledge. Um, but yeah, I just remember feeling lonely. No,
I felt like that too a lot, and even recently. But it's really changed, though. Something has changed since I quit the stressful job and became self-employed. Because I'm finding it easier to connect with people, and I don't know if I've picked up skills or I'm just around people that are easier to connect with, or maybe they're all neurodivergent. I don't know. But suddenly, socially, my life has just become a lot easier.
do you think it's because you're more in control of it though, Charlie? Because I think I've got so much more control over my life now that I run
Maybe.
my own business.
Yeah.
That before I had no control. I was always at the beck and call of somebody else.
Yeah.
I had to be at a place or in front of my computer by 8:45. I still had to be there by 5 o'clock. I don't have that demand on me anymore. And I think the flexibility has made it so much easier for me. And you hear it all the time, don't you? That a lot of neurodivergent people are going self-employed or
Mm.
building their own businesses because the corporate world is not built for them. I did it for 20 years. And I look back now and I think I was so institutionalized into being this certain way to be this certain person. Because you got to remember, I started there in my early 20s.
Mm.
So I felt like some of even that as a young adult, um, if I think about how I started, and I was actually talking to my hairdresser about this on Friday.
How did you start in the corporate world after doing
So,
what you were doing before?
so I was quite fortunate enough that I've got a very close friend called Natalie, and she already worked for the bank. And she phoned me up and she said, "There's this job going, there's this personal banking job going. I think you'll be brilliant for it." And I was like, "Why? Why me?" And she said, "You're really good with people. You're really good at problem solving." She said, "The thing is with you as well, you don't get emotionally attached." I remember her saying this to me, "You don't get emotionally attached and you just say it as it is. So you actually will be able to help people with their finance."
Yeah.
And because she recommended me, you didn't go through the normal recruitment process. You didn't go through HR. You didn't have to send in your CV. You automatically went to an interview because you were recommended. And the actual interview itself was a role play,
Oh, great. Yeah.
right? So when we're
So
talking about inclusive
as
recruitment,
an actor then, yeah,
yeah,
doing
right,
improv and drama, yeah.
exactly. So they gave
That's going to
me,
be way better than being grilled about.
yeah,
Tell me an
exactly.
example of when you demonstrated such and such a competency.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
brilliant.
always think because they gave me a role play and said, "How would you handle this situation?" And I actually do think my drama background and my theatrical background helped me with being able to help people because I would instantly mirror whoever was in front of me, and I've
Yeah,
always done it naturally. So I was able to sell and to solve this problem, and I got offered the job on the spot.
fantastic. Yeah.
And it kind of, and if it hadn't been for her giving me that opportunity, because the minute I got in there, again, that one sidetrack mind of me is if I want something, I don't stop until I get it, right? So I'd be like, I want that next promotion. And I'd aim for it and I would learn what I needed to do, understand where I needed to be, how I needed to achieve it. And I just went for it. But I've
Yeah.
always been good at solving problems. So actually being a relationship manager was my next step in that role. Just came natural to me, really natural to be able to mirror take something that somebody's saying and then go, well, actually, if I put this, and this together, that's going to solve your problem. And I do think people are like, well, being an autistic individual, you're not really supposed to be good with people.
Yeah,
Right,
keep smashing
okay.
the stereotypes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But actually, I'm good at it because I can mirror people, and it's a
yeah,
natural reaction for me to do it. And actually, when you talk about the top sales tips, mirroring's up there, right?
yeah,
And that is just something I
yeah.
naturally do.
Oh, it's
So
just,
yeah, that's how
it's
I got
like
into
the method acting. Anthony Hopkins was diagnosed
it.
autistic at the age of 70, and he then attributed his ability to do method acting
Yeah,
to his autism. So it's all transferable skills to the kind of role that you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky when I found my way into HR because I don't have people skills as such, but I got dressed up in a suit and I had a briefcase with my CV in it and nothing else. Maybe my record of achievement was in there, but I hawked my way around the agencies saying, I didn't complete my degree. I don't have office experience, but I know how to use a computer. My interpersonal skills are good. Do you have any jobs you can put me forward for? And I got put forward for a job at Barclays Bank in HR, helping out with a voluntary redundancy scheme. And I started picking up the phone of the supervisor who sat opposite me and screening her calls if she was really overloaded. I got involved in a salary review, and then I learned how to use Excel, which I excelled at. So having really struggled for motivation and just not really getting on at university because I didn't know what I wanted at the end of it, I had a job in HR, which I enjoyed. So then I was able to do that, and I did long hours and I was bloody good at it. And I went to Coventry Business School 2 nights a week and I got my CIPD qualifications. So when you know where you're going, it's a lot easier to get there, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. But I think, and I do look back on those days and think, well, do you know what? If I hadn't started in London, would it have been the same? Because when you come out of London in such a large corporation, it's completely different outside of London. So I'm actually grateful that I started in London because they do they do push you harder.
Yeah.
But one of the, and I've spoken about this before, the minute I moved up into wealth though, so obviously dealing with wealthier clients, I remember being sent on a 2 week course to how to be the perfect relationship manager, right? How you speak to these people, how you da, da, da. And for 2 days, Charlie, for 2 days, I was on a course of what to wear, how to dress,
Oh,
and how to present myself as a woman
uh,
in banking,
I bet
right?
you were a nervous wreck by the end of
Oh
that.
my God. So don't wear
Yeah.
this color, have your hair like this, you must wear heels. And I just remember thinking, okay, this is just, back then I was, I was 20, 26, I think at the time I was 26. And I was grateful for being in the position that I was in because I was in a job that I never dreamed I'd have because of obviously my past experience of education. I'm working my butt off to make sure that I was keeping this job and being good at it. So I went with it. And I remember looking back thinking, oh my God, I was conformed. I lost me. I lost who I was because before I started, you ask any of my friends, I used to have like a skunk hair, they used to call me. I used to have this big, massive blonde streak that went round, and every week I'd dye it a different colour. So I'd have different multicoloured hair. I'd always wear like outrageous clothes. And then I think actually doing the job that I was doing, they stripped that from me of right, well, you
Oh, that
can't be that
sucks.
person. Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
be that
Do it
person
again
anymore.
now. Yeah, I want to see that.
No, do you know what? I have toyed with it, and my hairdresser went, "No, Tony, you look like you're going for a midlife crisis if you do that." And I was like, "You're probably right."
Yeah, I did go through a vague, very passing pink hair streak when I quit my permanent HR job. But then I realised it doesn't really go with my brown eyes, so back to blonde highlights. But yeah, there's a whole story, and the Canary Code, the book by Ludmila
Yeah,
Praslova. Yeah, there's a whole story in there about I told her about what it was like when I worked for SRA and I was in HR and I was given interpersonal skills coaching by a member of the L&D team, and how damaging that was to me psychologically because I needed a bit of help with I call it clout, you know,
Mm,
having influence over people. And they basically tried to fit me into a neurotypical mold rather
right.
than saying there's nothing wrong with who you are and your personality, but have you tried this or have you tried that? It's, I don't know, something about that made it feel like they were saying that I was fundamentally broken, that there was something terribly wrong with my personality because I'd been myself. Really, I hadn't really been masking. I'd just I talked to people in the way that that came naturally to me. So it was really damaging because I felt like I didn't want to change really, but that I was never going to get anywhere in life. And yeah,
Yeah.
one of the reasons that I'm more confident now that I'm a professional speaker, I think, because there's tips and ways that you can engage audiences and get booked more often and things like that and market yourself as a speaker. There's stagecraft you can learn. But the most important thing is that you are the product. So you have to be authentic. It's what it's about you. So you don't go in and pretend to be something you're not.
Mm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. Well, that was completely taken away, if that made sense. You can't
Yeah.
be yourself when you're with these people. And lo and behold, the biggest impact as well is that I was the only girl in our team and I was the youngest. So I used to call them the blue pinstripe grade because you'd walk into a meeting room and everyone was probably they were all over the age of 40, 45, all wearing blue pinstripe suits. And then there was me,
Yeah.
right? This 26-year-old waddling in with a long brown
Smurfette.
hair,
Yeah.
right? And they're all just looking at me going, what on earth? What on earth,
Mm,
right? And already, so I was always feeling that I was on the back foot because I was the only female. I was the only female to secure that job at such a young age within that team. Um, and knowing that people were thinking, what on earth is she doing here? She shouldn't be here. So doing everything I was told to do to make sure that I had my place, if that made sense. But looking back now, I think God, that was, when I went into leadership, I completely stripped all that away and went, no,
good.
that's not me, and that's not who I'm going to be with my team. I didn't like being managed, and one of the reasons I went into leadership is because I didn't like the way I was being managed,
Mm,
or had been managed. And I could see that there was a need for different types of leadership. So hence why I went into leadership, and I'm quite proud. Before I left, literally 2 months before I left, I won a Global Inclusive Leader Award. But the one thing that made me proud is that I was actually nominated by someone from my team. I wasn't nominated by leadership. I wasn't nominated by someone else. It was by someone who was on my team.
brilliant.
Uh, and that for me was a proud moment. Actually, I left on a high.
Yeah, you should.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I'm impressed.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, be the change you want to see. Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
that is why. And I think that's why me and you go in and do these talks to these companies because we want change. We want people to hear what it's like to be us on that
yeah,
side. Because if you haven't experienced it, if you haven't had, our childhood, our experiences, our obsessions, right? You can't. There is no way that you can understand it. Even if you have, everybody at some point has probably been in connection with somebody who's neurodivergent, right?
yeah.
But you only know what they allow you to see.
It's the same thing for any other kind of diversity as well, though. Like, I really want people to be accepted for their wonderful, authentic selves and not to be forced to fit a mold. Let's not be victims of conformity. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. And I'm quite conscious that we're both like middle class, comfortable white women in a country that isn't war torn. And so I just want to acknowledge my privilege there
Yeah,
because when you're autistic and black and a female as well, it's so much harder because you'll get the angry black woman trope and
yeah.
stereotype. And yeah, when I
No, I
think
agree.
about some of the hardships we've been through, and when you've got intersecting identities and particularly race ethnicity, religion, then, you know, we've scratched the surface so
Yeah,
far
I agree.
of the difficulties we've had. So imagine that when you've got more things going against you as well.
Totally.
Let us be our authentic selves. I don't want people to have to code switch. I don't want people to have to pretend there's something they're not. So stagecraft and things like that, great. Learning some skills, great. But let's not change the essence of who people are, because it just leaves them broken shells.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I've said to a lot of people, I will continue to mask. It's my coping mechanism. It's my defense mechanism. And I don't know how not to, but that's okay. That's mine.
We're going to keep this going. So we'll
Yep.
have some deeper dives on some specific topics.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you particularly want us to talk about, we will. Thank you.
Thanks.